All right, what's going on, everybody? It is Monday, a little bit afternoon Eastern. We got a little bit of a late start with a link and such. I will introduce her in a moment, but I have Mary on here with us. And that is because she was the winner of our last points challenge. And so, as a lot of you know, about every quarter or every 6 months, somewhere around there, I usually bring on one of our one-on-one students to kind of talk about what's working with them and what's what is one of their processes or something that's really given them great results. Because sometimes I think it's important for people to not just hear from me and what I say, but also people that are out there in the field with you doing what it is that you're doing, and to share their successes, but also their struggles and the things they have to overcome, and how that happened. And so we're going to get into that in 1 second. But first, those of you that are new, this one may go a little bit longer. We generally go pretty short with these, but when I do an interview, they tend to go a little bit longer. But I also think they bring a lot of value to them. So that's why we allow that to happen. If you have questions, you can post them in our Facebook group. If you're not in the Jared James Coaching Facebook group, make sure you hop in there. I'll be paying attention to that as we're going through right now. People in the office are as well, with questions that you have. Encouragement as well. I always love it whenever I bring someone on. When people start sending them messages and saying thank you and asking them questions. It's one of those things where, it's one thing to do well for yourself, but I think, Mary, you're going to find out after today as well that there's something quite different when you're able to help other people. And it's just another level of satisfaction, which I think you're going to find. So with that being said, if there's questions, you can post them in that group. We'll be keeping an eye there. But without further ado, why don't we say hello here. Mary, why don't you introduce yourself, tell them where you're from, and anything else you want to tell them.
Sure. My name is Mary Harmon Young. I live in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So the University of Alabama is about 2 blocks away.
You're a Roll Tide, is that correct?
Yeah, we're the Crimson Tide. So we are in the midst of football season, and we do have a lot of game day properties here. But I would love to break into that market, but we don't. It's not where I'm at yet, but it's kind of weird. We're in Podunk, Alabama, and we've got $1 and $2 million condos next to, $150,000 family homes. So we're slowly seeing the impact of football.
Nice. All right, so here's what we're going to do today. First off, if people have questions or they want to contact you, how can they do that?
Sure. My email address is information at maryharmon.com. And I know I have an accent, so I can type it somewhere if I need to. But
I love it.
Or just on Facebook is fine too. I've got Mary Harmon Young, my business page, and my personal page are both the same name. So.
And we'll post something below this after with all correct spellings and all that kind of stuff. It's too funny, everybody watching right now. I'm getting ready to do this whole other thing. And then I remembered, holy crap, that's right. Like, today is the day that you come on, which I was looking forward to this day, because the reason why you're on here today, well, you know what? Why don't you tell everybody, why are you on here today? Like, what happened that you got to do this?
So I won the points challenge, okay. And I started late. I think you'll have to help me. I think I started 3 weeks late. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, you started because you're a one-on-one student, but you've only been a one-on-one student for how long? Like, it hasn't been that long.
No, I think 6 weeks. I think we've met 4 times now.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, it hasn't been like a crazy amount of time. But I think the points challenge, I mean, this is a great example. You just came in and kind of took the bull by the horn, so to say. Who's your coach?
My coach is Ryan Wall out of High Point, North Carolina. And, my biggest thing is I'm running 10,000 different directions. And so I never actually sit down and do the same thing. I think I sold $9 million last year. Okay. And sold about 32 different houses, or transaction sides, and I didn't have a database.
How long have you been doing this? Let's get right. You're going to notice, like, a lot of times when we do these, I'm going to keep cutting off and just asking very specific questions, because I know you and I know the answers to a lot of these. But for a lot of people listening, the more details we give them, the better, where it just kind of lets them relate to where you're coming from. So how long have you been doing this? And are you by yourself? Do you have a helper? Do you have, what's your situation?
It is me, myself, and I.
Okay.
My office is very supportive, so we do have somebody that schedules appointments, and then we have somebody else that goes back through all of my files and makes sure I didn't miss anything. My biggest issue is I have a 4-month-old and then I have a 2-year-old. So like last night, I got Sadie Grace finally to bed at 5 a.m. and I woke up at 5:30. So we're working on about 35 minutes of sleep. And she typically comes to work with me, but I got a babysitter today. But so I didn't have any database, like I said, so I had to sit down and like I know people, and that's kind of my thing is relationships. Is oh, that's so and so, and their kid is so and so, and they live in this area, and I can remember their numbers, but I was really bad about even saving phone numbers. Like I can tell you somebody's phone number, but I don't have it saved. So if anything were to happen, it's me. So I've really tried to make a daily thing of I'm going to call so many people, I'm going to do things. And I think one of the points challenge made me really focus on is I got a bomb count. And so being as relationship as my main thing, I was able to help put a face because a lot of people are moving to town. They've got students coming to Alabama. You know, when I was in school years ago, we had 21,000 and now we have 52. So, I mean, we've more than doubled in not that long. And so even as something as simple as, hey, wanted to let you know the inspection went today. There were no termites. Everything went good. I've gone ahead and submitted it. But I put that face with it. And then most of the time, they responded back, oh, how cool, you know, because we do a lot of video showings where they don't get to come. And I think if I had to pinpoint one thing, it would be that bomb and being able to put a face, even if, you know, with new people that call or somebody from Zillow or Trulia, as well as our vendors, because it kind of helps set it apart. Hey, I've got a new contract for you. I'd love for you to go ahead and work on the title. They're a sweet couple, moving here from so-and-so. They've got a daughter at school. But I think it just kind of helps stand out.
So let's go back a second. So you won the points challenge. So explain to everybody really quickly what the points challenge is. It's something we do with our one-on-one students. Exchange what the points challenge is, and then explain what exactly were you doing every day, and what did that do for you? Like what was the process, especially in a world where I remember you from like, you know, the craziness, like you said, 2 kids, the whole thing. It's so easy to get pulled all over the place constantly. And sometimes we just need that it's just such a slight thing that all of a sudden pulls us back and says, okay, no matter what, this, and this has to get done today. You know, because you can be extremely busy without ever being productive. I say all the time, some people are way too busy to be productive. And so what the points does, when you'll explain it in a second here, is it makes sure that out of your craziness of your day, because whether you get a lot done or not, your day is crazy every day. Did you actually do things that matter to your business? Like that's what ultimately matters. So explain what the points challenge is. And what that has done for you on a daily basis.
So it's from Saturday to Friday of each week. And I don't have it in front of me, so I'm trying to remember. It's various things like how many videos or Snapchats or bombs did you send a day? How many clients did you actually talk to?
And you get points for each one of these activities.
Yeah, for each one that you do. And so it's like, how many appointments did you schedule? How many? And so I had to, instead of just saying, no, let me know when you're available, I would have to say, all right, so I'm free on Thursday from 2 to 4. Let's go ahead and start. This is my schedule. I've got to pick up my kid from 5 on, and then I've got bath time and everything else. I've got 2 to 4. What time do you want? And so I
want to pause on that a second, because that right there is a crucial point that I don't want people to miss, because that right there, in essence, is what I was talking about a second ago, which was many of us, you know, there's that old saying, like, begin with the end in mind, right? And you want to reverse engineer where it is you want to go. And ultimately, our actions are determined by whatever our motivations are at that moment or whatever our goals are at that moment, right? So this is why, for example, when we are on our way to get something or get something done or whatever, and someone stops and talks to us, it's why it annoys us. Because in our mind, everything we need to do right now needs to fall in line with what I'm trying to do, where I'm trying to go, right? And you're holding me back from doing that. And yet when you look at the majority of the people listening right now, when you look at the majority of people just in business in general, there's not a whole lot of end game in mind. It's basically just take care of a lot of people, act like a customer service rep, you know, majority of the people listening right now. I'm getting echo and that's happening. I'm about to turn the volume down a bit, but it's basically a lot of that kind of stuff. And there's no real, like, what defines a win, right? There's no, like, what defines you're from the football place there. What defines a victory? The reason why we know one team won and one team lost is that they got more points.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like that. It's not like, oh, you played hard, well then you must have won. There's an actual definition of what that is.
Yeah.
And what the points thing does that you just kind of said subtly that I really loved was that you said you used to call people and you just kind of talk to them, and then you kind of be like, all right, if anything else, but because you know that in order to win or in order to get these points that you have to get today, your actions are determined by that, or because you know that I need to get an appointment here. If I don't get an appointment, I don't get a, and now what you're doing to get that appointment absolutely changes, okay? So anyway, I think that's amazing, and I think that's just a little thing that somebody can pick up from this, is that absolute intention of, it's not a matter of where this conversation goes. It's a matter of this is the end goal, and now I need to figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell people all the time in this business that salespeople aren't what make the money in this business. Closers are. You know, a salesperson is somebody who steps in front of a client and goes, okay, great. Here's everything that's nice about me. When do you think you're going to make a decision by?
Yeah.
A closer follows the sales process, but then actually closes and makes them make a decision, which is what you basically just said. I need an appointment. So this is when I have to do this. I'm available this time to this time. So can we get this on the schedule?
Yeah.
And you're in essence making them make a decision, which right there, I won't go into it, but that's sales technique 101. You know, it's
last week, the funniest thing that happened was,
I'm sorry. He said there's a bunch of lot where on
there was only one lockbox that's on the bottom, and I'm in a national training call. So,
bottom. Yes.
sorry. Sorry.
oh, literally, it's no big deal. People are gonna love that. Actually, go ahead.
So I was laughing. There was this one girl. I sold her house when I had my first son.
Okay.
So, almost 3 years ago, because he's 2.5. She's been in a rental for that long because I haven't been able to get her and her husband together to make a decision. And I'm friends with them, and so I'm always like, okay, come on. And so I've been trying to be a little bit more, I hate to say pushy, but, and so finally I called her, and she never
everyone. So it amazes me how so many people are afraid to make people commit. It's like we are so afraid of being quote unquote pushy, but we're not equally as afraid of being wasteful of like our time and our, you know what I'm saying? Like, it always amazes me. But anyway, so you're trying to get these two on the same page.
So if I was supposed to go to lunch with her, and then our kid got sick, and then I was supposed to go to lunch with her, and something happened. And so I was taking her to lunch on a Friday, and she called me that morning, and she was like, I've got to go do this and this and this today. I don't think I'm going to have time for lunch. And I'm like, Sarah Beth, we've got to do this. Your lease is up. I don't think you understand that. Your lease is up in November. It takes so many weeks. You're paying a ridiculous amount of rent. She's like, well, I've got to go get my nails done because I'm at a wedding tomorrow. And I said, fine, I'll go with you, and I'll get my nails done while you're getting your nails done.
I love it.
And I laughed, and so I texted Ryan. I'm like, okay, I feel like everybody in the salon was like, they are honestly talking business. And I had my iPad out. We were looking at pictures. But after we got our nails done, she put an offer on a $460,000 house.
I love that.
You know, so it doesn't have to be in your office.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be your definition of what professional, you know, is. And if you will get out of your comfort zone, even though, yes, I go get my nails done, but I don't talk business, you know, in the nail salon. And so some things just that simple that you can put your mind to it and say, I'm going to do this. You've got to do it. I'm telling you this as your friend. Your lease is up. Where are you going to go?
And by the way, that's another crucial point as well. When you say pushy, you aren't pushing towards people. You aren't pushing people towards something that is not in their best interest or not something that they want. Yeah. Unfortunately, they're acting like the majority of the salespeople watching this right now, in that they're just kind of letting every day exist, and they're just kind of going throughout, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh crap, like, you know, when they realize there's things they should have been doing that they're not doing. Your clients are doing the same things. And from your perspective, you're not pushing her like in a negative way. What you're doing is you're actually helping her, because that deadline was going to hit whether you guys recognized it or not.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
and you know,
your job as a professional to think about that for her.
Yeah. And I don't think she realized, because when I said, listen, it's going to take 5 to 6 weeks. Let's be honest. You've got to find a house. You're going to have to get under contract. Your husband's been out of town for 3 weeks. You got to get his financial stuff.
Right.
Your lease is up. And she was like, that means I only have 4 days. I'm like, that's why I've been calling you every day. But like, she just didn't understand. So if you become that advisor,
right,
instead of like just the sales mentality, I think that's kind of what this has helped realize, is that, hey, listen, your property values have gone up because those other people sold their house. And I think it's a good time for you to take advantage of it. And and you could be in by Christmas.
Right.
Instead of, would you like to see an A on your house? And to be honest, Brian, if it gets on to me, I don't like the door knocking. Yep. I don't mind cold calling, but I don't like walking up. And so, and he kept saying, if somebody came up to you and said, hey, there's an opportunity for you to make $10,000, would you like to find out how? That's not like the people going door to door, trying to give out Bibles. And I'm still struggling with that. But I get
trying to give out Bibles.
I get it.
I want to go back to something you said a second ago too, which is I'm always looking for, when I'm listening to somebody, especially someone like you, I'm always looking for what are the nuggets for everybody listening right now. And the nugget that I heard you say a couple minutes ago too, when you said that I now know that I need an appointment, and now I say, this is when I'm not available. Are you available at this time? Are you available at this time? And you're basically going with that. What's important for everybody to understand, and I really want everyone to get this right now, what you did was that you went from a yes-no close to an either-or close, okay? Now I want everybody to follow this, because what most of us do is we give people options that are basically yes-no. No, I don't want to do that. Yes, I want to do that. What you're doing is you're saying, not yes or no, we're doing this appointment. Which time works for you? Mm-hmm. And it's essentially exactly what I want. I mean, these are the weird examples I come up with, but they're just the truth. Like a couple weeks ago, I come back from a trip. I'm smack dab in the middle of convention season right now. And I come back from a trip, or I get a call while I'm on the trip. I don't even remember which way it was. And my wife wants new cushions for the dining room seats. Okay? Simple thing. But when she contacts me about those cushions, she didn't ask me, is it all right if we get cushions, which is a yes or no? She showed me 2 options and said, which one? Okay? Now, I want you to understand from a psychological perspective what that does. Yes or no is not on the table. Do you understand that? Like, people choose from what is in front of them. So if they go to a buffet and they don't see steak is not an option, right? And when you're talking to a client, when you say, would you want to? Yes or no? No is an option, right? So whenever you can, you want to go from a yes or no close to an either or close, because people still feel like they're getting what they want. They got to make a decision, but again, their decision is a yes for us either way. So it's not, would you like to meet about this? We've been trying to whatever. It's, hey, I got my kids at this time and this time. I'm available at this time or this time. Which one do you want? Okay? And that is such a subtle thing. But from a closing perspective, when you understand how the mind works and how people go through their decision-making processes, as much as humanly possible, you want to eliminate yes-no closes and start going with either-or closes, because they get to make a decision. But either way, the answer is yes to you. Make sense? I don't even know if you know you're doing that, but that's essentially what you're doing.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think that 2 other things that that people commented on that I remember was kind of like an aha was, I think it was you had even said it, I don't remember, it was you or Ryan that said, give people an option. Like, would you want me to contact you by text, call you, or email you? And it was right after I joined, I ended up, got a Zillow lead and, goes to 15 different people. But because in my bomb I said, let me know what's the best way to contact you, either or. I ended up getting him because he only wanted to text. And it was because he was from China and his English was very broken. And so that way he could translate it. Well, none of the other agents that he had already met with gave him that option. And so something as simple as that I never thought to ask. And so literally I never talked to him on the phone. And
Wow,
if
so
you
you're okay. So that's great. So one of the things you're doing is you're communicating in the way that they want to be communicated with. And the only way that happens is by asking the question, obviously. But then you said you're using BombBomb. And for any of you that aren't familiar right now, BombBomb is a tool, it's an app, it's software basically that allows you to, instead of just replying in letters, written message, it allows you to do a really quick, hey, got your thing, and I'm at a soccer game, but I'll be contacting you later today. And more importantly, and what it does is if you just try to do that with your phone by text or email or whatever, a lot of times the file size is going to be too large or it's going to show up sideways and you can't fix it. BombBomb gives you the ability, it sends it right in your email, right in your text, whichever way you want to do it. And then more importantly, what it does is it also lets you know when people open it.
Exactly.
So that's a huge thing because now you know that at that moment they're thinking about you. And what it really does, though, is it's the ultimate humanizer. Meaning that when Mary is writing back, and I've said this over and over to you guys, but I just need you to get this. When Mary is writing someone back, which is sometimes the only thing you can do, there's a time that you do that, there's no differentiating factor. Like I sent an email to our database this morning. You have no idea if I wrote that, or if Michelle wrote it, or if Alicia wrote it, or if you have no idea. You have no idea. Looks all the same. All the letters are the same. But when this happens, like that I'm doing this broadcast right now, you associate a person, you hear tonality, you see expression. Now you have an actual person you're dealing with. And what happens is when you start using BombBomb or another tool like that, ultimately the advantage of that is that it's much more difficult to turn down or decline or whatever a person than it is just a written email or something else. And there's power in that. What were you going to say?
Calls for sale by owner mailers and expired listings via email. And I've incorporated some videos through BombBomb, but some of them just letters. But I can go through and tell that the same sellers have opened every one of my emails versus these for sale by owners or expireds haven't. So I can really focus on those people who I have their attention and I know that they're actually reading it and paying attention instead of just going blindly to.
All right, go back to that. Talk about that. So I know what you're doing, but some people might not know what you're doing. So explain that process of how you're going back and you're seeing, oh, here are the real targeted, like these are the people opening everything I'm doing and really, having interest, whether they've responded or not. They're still doing that. It's almost like a Facebook stalker. Yeah. Like I run into people locally and they're like, oh man, I watch all your stuff. I was just looking at this. And then I'm thinking like, I've never seen you engage one time in your life. Yes. And you know that you basically have like a Facebook stalker, right? Yes. They're always there, but they're always in like, the backwoods, whatever. So from your essence, how are you doing that? What is it you're actually doing?
I got the template off of y'all's dashboard and I'm putting it into Wise Agent that then integrates with BombBomb. And so I'm sending them, I think it's set up once a week. They get a different email and it's really the same email, but it's either to expireds or to for sale by owners. And I'm getting that information of what's expired through our MLS and then crossing it with Vulcan 7 to get their email address.
Okay.
And I'm able to see, I may send out 50 on the expired and for sale by owners, but there's only 2 that are actually reading each of them. So those are the 2.
By the way, I say all the time, we're not after the 49 no's, we're after the 1 yes.
Yeah. And so it kind of just helps, I guess, focus, your time. Yes, they're automatically getting that email, but then you can know that that person is actually opening.
And then do you send some kind of personal thing to them later, or are you paying attention to when it's being opened? Are you do you have your, for a lot of our people, I always tell them with especially using a tool like BombBomb, I tell them to turn their notifications on. So on their phone, when a seller from 6 months ago opens up an email or a buyer or whatever, all of a sudden just watched your video that you sent out 7 months ago, it's like, oh, I need to get in contact with that person. Do you have those on right now, or what are you doing?
No, but I'm writing that down to change that.
Perfect. So just so everybody knows, what I'm telling her to do right now is BombBomb on their app, you have notifications where you can turn them on according to different things. So you can have them turned on when somebody watches one of your videos or something like that. Now, the reason why that's so powerful is because just like we talk about with leads, when you respond to leads within 5 minutes of them becoming a lead, your conversion ratio goes up by over 100 times. Why? Because they live in a world where their attention is always being, grabbed from other different things and whatever. And at that moment you have their attention, right?
Yeah.
And so when you look at notifications, I'm not a big fan of notifications overall on my phone. Like, it would be insanity on here. Every time someone on Facebook or on the fan page or on Instagram I could not do that. It would be insanity, right? But I want to know when someone just watched my video, because that's something that actually pertains to business. To me, that's as powerful as somebody sending me a text message. Because I know that at that moment, go look at, so we talk about those phrases to use with buyers and sellers. And one of the most popular phrases I tell people to use with buyers and sellers is, oh, it's funny you're contacting me about blank, whatever that property is, that neighborhood, because me and my partner were just talking about that neighborhood and saying how we need a list. And it's funny you're because people like to feel like it's meant to be. Like that's just, everyone always feels like they went to a car dealership and it was meant to be, because I was looking for a black car, and wouldn't you know, right there on the lot is a black car. And it's just like, yeah, of course there. But everyone likes to feel like things are meant to be, right? So when somebody opens up and they go and watch your video from 3.5 months ago, at that moment, you know that something's happened. Interest has been triggered. They're in that mode right now. When you all of a sudden, you don't send them a a video message that says, hey, saw that you opened up my, whatever. You send them something that says, just wanted to follow up with you. It's been a few months or whatever. Do you have any more questions about blah, blah, blah? And now they're thinking to themselves, oh my God, this is meant to be. Like this, the stars have aligned. But you have that ability through strategic targeting by using a tool like BombBomb or something like that, where it's giving you notifications whenever somebody watches something, no matter how long ago it was, that was specifically for them.
Yeah.
Right? That makes sense?
The other thing that, and I didn't know until the end at closing that came up, is y'all put in your call a few weeks ago, you said to I have clients looking in a certain area.
Right.
Of anybody buying, it's selling. And our inventory is about 420 houses less than it was this time last year. So that's a big difference for us. And so we're seeing homes, the most sellers market we've seen in a long time. And so I put that on there, and several people tagged themselves or tagged their friends, and I didn't get anything out of it.
You're talking about a promoted Facebook post right now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I put on my business page and on my personal, so that I could try to get people that necessarily didn't like my business page,
right,
to tell me. And I didn't get any listings or any contacts, but my neighbor, whose retired sister, was thinking about moving back here to Tuscaloosa. And she was working with an agent that's been here for years and has probably been in business for 40 years, who's the #1 agent. Right. And she was looking for a certain type house that's hard to come by, a new construction in Tuscaloosa. And the agent's response was, we'll just have to wait and see if anything comes on the market. There's nothing right now. And when she came up for a football game, she was talking to her sister. And her sister pulled her phone out and said, look at this. This is the difference. She knows there's nothing out there, and yet she's begging people.
Saying, do you know something? Do you? By the way, that's why that post is so important. That's why even things like the buyer neighborhood letter that goes out to the neighbors and says, I'm well aware my buyers have every access to every property in MLS just like I do. That's why I try to find stuff before it even hits the market. And that's why, because there's two parts to most of the marketing that we're teaching you to do. There's really two parts to it. The first part is the actual of gaining of new business right up front. The second part is the branding that comes with that. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to tell people what you do or how you're different or what your unique selling proposition is or any of those things. It's another thing to actually show them and say, I'm doing this actively. Like, this is what you get when you work with me, right? So that's an example of doing something like that, which is great. Yeah.
And she ended up sending a letter and firing the buyer's agent she was working with, and ended up buying a house for me. And of course, I didn't know that working with anybody else to begin with. And at closing, I said, so, obviously I live next door to your sister, but what else? And so when she told that story, I was like, okay, because I had told her that didn't work. And so then I was like, okay, so by doing that, it did. And so it made me wonder how many other people saw that thought made that comment.
Which, by the way, goes back to why we do the points to begin with, because it's all about process, right? It's about, so obviously we want to see results, okay? But the whole reason why we do the points contest with our one-on-one students to begin with is because we know whether you see it right now or you see it in the future or you never even see it, but it still happened, you just didn't know it. We know that if you follow the process of the things that we assign points to, that results are going to come regardless, whether you assign them to that particular point activity or not. We know what the process is. And if you continually stay focused on the process and not getting up every day and going, oh my God, I didn't get that result. Oh my God, I didn't get whatever, which is just a roller coaster of a ride, right? But we know if you focus on process, ultimately results always follow. You know, you don't go work out and, oh, I dropped 40 pounds. Like, no, one workout is never going to do that. You know, it's just not how it works. So I'm psyched to hear that from you, that even you got to see it, because a lot of times you don't get to.
And, you know, if I hadn't have asked them point blank, then I wouldn't have known, because they didn't want to throw the other girl under the bus. But when she told me, and she didn't tell me as in detail as her sister told my husband. So they didn't even tell me, you know, the whole.
By the way, another lesson in that too, people rarely tell you the truth when you ask them for feedback. So a lot of times when you ask somebody, you know, hey, I just want to get better at what I do, why didn't I get the listing? Or, hey, people rarely tell you the absolute truth, because they're thinking about your feelings. They're thinking about a lot of other things. And so from my perspective, I get messages from people all the time who want to get better at what they do. And they say, you know, the seller said this or the buyer said this is the reason I didn't. And it's always interesting for me, because I'm trying to find a nice way to say to that agent, I don't think that's why. And they're going, well, that's what they told me. And I'm going, that's not really why. And so you have the advantage right now of being able to hear the why from the actual client, and then to hear the real deal from the person, you know, and not everybody gets that advantage, but it just proves the point. Rarely do people tell you the truth when it comes to the feedback, because there's no advantage in it for them.
So I'm putting both the pictures on Facebook today if people want to look, but on this, I think it was the last call you talked about networking events with clients, and it's part of this time's point challenge. But I think we had my call on like October 1st, and I was like, "You're gonna do something," and I'm like, "Well, I can do pumpkin since I have kids, but you know." All
right, so go back to that a second. So you got on the call with your one-on-one coach. You generally, most likely, just stay crazy throughout the year. Just hope you have enough to pay the bills, do your thing, whatever. And your coach said, no, you're doing something for your clients here. You're going to do something to pull people in, something like something. Is that accurate or no?
It is. And I do a lot of stuff, but more like pop buys. Like I take sparklers. Last year I did s'mores, a little box of s'mores, but it takes me hours to put 300 boxes together and then separate them based on zip codes and write down the addresses. Cause you know, I don't have a database. So I have to go back in and think, okay, Sarah Beth lives in this neighborhood.
Don't you have a high school there? They're generally pretty cheap labor.
Do what? Yeah.
I have a high school or something like.
Fortunately, I like to micromanage everything.
I was going to say, if you gave me one more excuse about that, I wasn't going to buy it anymore. Like there's cheap labor near you. But anyway.
So, instead, this year he was like, no, I want you to do something that would be a more like where everybody can see it and let other people talk about it. And so I did a pumpkin patch. So I did it last week. So I had a week and a half to send out invitations, come up with an idea, and invite people. So I did do paper flyers. I don't know if you can see it. I'll try to put it on my Facebook page, but it just said client appreciation.
You know what, Mary, if you have those by like PDF or anything?
Yeah, I have it right here.
Send them to me. We'll put them up in the group or something like that. We'll say, here's the things that Mary was talking about, and we'll put them up in the group so they can kind of see what it is that you were doing. If you want to share that, that's up to you.
Yeah, I don't mind sharing that. And the other thing that I did, though, was I sent it all via BombBomb. So it looks like it's an individual email for them that just says, hey, it's been a while since I've seen you. Wanted to do something special this year. I'm going to have a pumpkin patch next week because y'all are all awesome and I've missed seeing you. And I was really surprised that the people that came, like my friends, like my good friends that said they were coming, didn't come. But clients from 4 and 5 years ago showed up.
It always amazes me how shocked everyone is by that, because that's what always happens, is the people that they were your best friends when you were going through the transaction with them. You're seeing them every day. You're doing whatever. Yeah. If you did your job, they usually want to get back in contact. They're excited to have an opportunity to come and see you again, to come and, you know. Yeah.
And so I was just going to do the pumpkins and the signs. And then I was not going to focus on me. I was going to focus on them. So I had a photographer come out and take pictures. And like the day of, Ryan called and said, hey, what do you got this afternoon? And I was like, my pumpkin patch. And he was like, what about referrals? And I'm like, I'm not asking these people for referrals. Like, I'm not. And he was like, no, you're going to. So I came up with this little referral friend, and it matches my invitation. And all it says is refer a friend with their name and their number and either a buyer or seller. And I just laid them out on the tables.
Because you didn't want to be pushy, so you didn't mention them.
I was surprised. I had 3 people fill it out. And I went on 2 listing appointments last week. And I'm pretty sure, I know I got one. I think I'm going to get the other one. And then I'm going this week, meeting with a buyer for the other. So, you know,
what's the average transaction worth in your area?
Average sale in Tuscaloosa is $160,000.
Okay, so what's your average split, like percentage-wise, usually?
Let me do the math real fast.
I can do the math.
Okay, so it's 3%, and then I get 70% of that.
Okay, so it's 48 and then 3360. Okay, so on average, right? You're going into these things, and on your split, you're getting around 3360. We'll just call it 3,500. We'll just call it 30 times 3 would be 10 grand. So if you got 3 transactions off of that, you're getting just under or just over $10,000. Okay.
I spent $600 on pumpkins.
And here's the more important point that I want to make, because I'm always thinking about you when I'm talking to you, and then I'm thinking about everybody watching and everybody who will watch after this. The more important point is that if your coach hadn't called you up and said, no, you're doing that, and even with it, you put it out there really just to appease him, but you didn't mention it, you didn't whatever. You were really just being able to tell him on the next call, yeah, I put out referral sheets. And then your personality was probably looking forward to being able to tell him, but nobody filled it out. See, that's not what it was for. Nobody was going to whatever. And next thing you know, 3 different transactions coming from it. Who knows what else will come from that, because that's long-term branding, that's reconnection with those clients, that's whatever. You literally were going to cost yourself $10,000 plus because of these inner narratives and stories we tell ourselves about not wanting to be pushy and not wanting to. And yet I don't think there was a person there that felt like anything was pushy or whatever. It was, they know why you're doing it. They get it.
Yes.
But they don't care because you are giving them something of value. They understand you have to make a living. And so we avoid these situations and cost ourselves all of this money. And it boggles my mind. Like, and yet it works. Like, when you actually
do it. And the other thing that Ryan gets credit for was you had said something about buyers and sellers, like the other side. They're
Start that over again, because you said the other thing Ryan gets credit for, and then you cut off.
The neglected client. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, I'm not doing that. Tuscaloosa.
I knew it.
So I invited several, and I had 2 people
Tell everybody what the neglected client campaign is. We do that. We teach that in the program. So you can tell everybody what it is, the general basis of what it is.
It's the other agent's client. The idea is when they walk out of closing, they are a free agent.
They are a free agent, and 89% of them never work with that realtor again.
So I was surprised that 2 of them came, and they both got there and said, we felt like maybe you sent this to us by accident, but my son saw the flyer when he was doing the opening the mail and wanted a pumpkin. And so they came, they stayed, and because Ryan made me put my signs up, the pictures I'm putting on Facebook have my for sale sign with a sold sign on it with my name writer in the background.
Nice. Look, for all of you watching right now, right below you in your dashboard, we have the neglected client campaign. The neglected client campaign is very simple. And quite honestly, if I'm just going to be blunt here, Not enough of you are taking advantage of it because you're scared of looking a certain way or whatever. If you deal with another agent who's a great agent who takes care of their people, don't send a neglected client campaign. I tell people that all the time. But 89% of the time, you're dealing with somebody who that client's never going to deal with again. And what you have to understand is that it's not okay to market to people who are actively represented by another agent. But once that closing happens, they are officially and legally a free agent. Okay. And now, again, 89% of the time, they're going to work with someone else later on. And in the meantime, they're going to be referring somebody else as well. Okay. And so you can go check it out below you. There's I don't know if there's a video, there's a template down there, but it's basically shows you how to introduce yourself to those people and start becoming an option for them after the closing for people that you think it's worth it to do it for. And that was something that you're talking about now that he was pushing to you. You're fighting back because of your personality and you're going, I don't want to do that. I don't want, no, that's not right. That's not, whatever. And here's the thing, guys. One of the worst things we can ever do from a marketing perspective to grow our business is to play the mirror effect, meaning this is how that would make me feel, or this is how, look, if you are great with your clients, then yes, it would be weird if somebody was sending stuff to your clients after the closing, inviting them, giving them information, inviting them to work with you. That would be crazy. But that's the mirror effect. In most cases, 89% of the time, you're not dealing with another agent like that. Okay? So it's not weird to send them as that campaign describes. Again, you can go watch it, read it, see how it works. It's an extremely effective campaign that not enough of you are using right now. You need to go check it out, okay? And I'm not surprised you were hesitant about it because that's how a lot of people are. They're, no.
I mean, I want to do things the right way. And that's where I've got to get out of my mind is,
Well, see, now we think that the right way is anything that doesn't have any kind of conflict or anything that doesn't have any kind of, somebody else is going to think this is what's really happening and someone else is going to, and it's like, look, you run a business. You need to do everything the right way. You need to be above board. You need to be ethically correct. You need to take care of your clients. You need to do all of these other things.
And the reality of it is they do it to my clients in a heartbeat.
Potentially. But again, we're not even going after people that are, taken care of by their clients or by their agent or we're talking about free agents who, again, 89% of the time are going to work with another agent. You have an opportunity now to grow your database, grow your sphere. And I say all the time, like the larger your database, the larger your business is going to be, So every opportunity you get to add people to that database, whether they buy now, sell now, whether it's in the future, whether they're giving you referrals, whatever it may be, it's a contact sport. You got to grow that database, okay? And that was an important thing you said in the beginning too, where you said, I have no database. I hope that's something you guys are working on now.
It's slowly.
Okay, so slowly is better than not at all.
And I have not used a high school student, so I've been trying to input the stuff, in all my free time.
I always remember the call that I did with Meredith where she said Donna makes her do 5 a day because it's important to always do things that that you'll actually follow through on, right? Like I wouldn't expect somebody that I talk to say, you know what, I've been slacking. I'm running a marathon tomorrow because it would never happen. Like it's not even feasible. And yet when you look at the reason why people don't keep an accurate database and don't keep accurate records, it's because they're so chaotic and so many things going on. So the expectation that all of a sudden now they're going to put in 200 names a day or something just does not jive. So you take a number, you say, I'm going to do 5 a day. I'm going to do 10 a day. I'm going to do 3 a day. You commit to that number, almost like the points, right? You won the points challenge, which I'm going to guess, tell me if I'm wrong, meant that you were doing things every day you probably usually didn't do.
Yeah.
Would that be accurate?
Yes.
But, go ahead.
And I've gotten to where I was almost like, everybody knows what I do. I don't need to be in their face about it. And I've kind of taken a step back from that because like last week at Sunday school, I teach the 2-year-old Sunday school class. During the drop-off, I was so surprised different people would stop by and would, just look in at all the cute little kids, not because they were getting their kids. And that one of them was like, oh, I can't believe you have time to come in and, minister to the kids. I know you've got an open house this afternoon. I saw it in the paper, and so I'd say, yeah, and, that's such a cute house. That's just, that neighborhood's just really hard to get into. And I'd love it if you knew anybody. And then I got a listing appointment from people in there talking about. So I think if you will allow yourself to, just like the doctors or something, or any attorneys, have you had any crazy clients lately? People talk about what you're doing, and you set the tone if you're open to that casual conversation, or if you keep that separate. And I think if you'll, allow yourself to have those conversations and be, approachable, it'll benefit.
The mentality is what I want to focus on, because if I told you how often I hear people tell me, I don't go to church to get business. Well, no one said you did. But if you truly care about those people, aren't you their best option? So it's such a cliche now, but the whole secret agent thing. Nobody goes to church to pick up business. I guess some people do.
Yeah.
Terrible people. You know what I mean? But there's a difference between somebody going to church to get business and getting business and being a terrible person, and somebody going to church for other reasons and happening to get business because they know what you do and they want to work with someone that has a similar belief system as them and whatever, and now you're the best option for them. So both of them end up with business. One's a terrible person and one's not. It's all about your motive. But this idea, though, that I don't go there for that, so I'm just going to turn it down. If anybody brings it up, I'm going to hope that lightning strikes them, whatever. It's like, no, you're just an idiot. Like, these people are people, regardless of where they are, okay? They learn how to adjust to the environment and act like they're supposed to in that environment. So people tend to act different at church than they do, at football later, and people tend to act, whatever. But people are people, period. And people are who buy houses, are who sell houses. And as I said, if you go to similar types of organizations or churches or charities you work on or any of these other things, your motive matters, okay? So you're there for the right reasons. But you now have a shared belief, a shared core with these people. You also have to have the belief that you are the best option if they decide to do something that involves what you do for a living. I go to church. I was at church this past Sunday, and I can't tell you the number of people who walk over when I'm walking out with my kids. And they're like, hey, man, I watch all your videos. Hey, man, like I follow all your stuff. I didn't stop them and like put my finger up to their lips and shh, I'm in church right now. Like you heathen. You chat. They're people. You just kind of chat with them. And you know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And the reason why I just spent so much time on that is because I know the number of people watching right now and that will watch this week who have that belief. And it's not helping them. Because then those people are going and using somebody else and they end up regretting it, and it turns out being a terrible experience. And if you're really good at your job and you really believe in yourself, you could have helped them avoid that.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right, we have to close up soon. So anything that you want to talk about or you want to mention that has not been mentioned here, is there any like benefit that's come from that? Is there any like thing is there anything, I want to make sure that I don't skip anything with you.
I don't think so.
All right. How do they get in contact with you? We're going to put that under, I think when we post in the group, how do they get in contact with you?
So my email address is info@maryharmon.com.
Spell that for them so they know, because I know how to spell your name, but just make sure they know.
My name, it's MaryHarmon.com. And then my Facebook page is Mary Harmon and then Young, Young.
Okay. All right, and so I would like it, guys, if you would give a thank you to Mary for being willing to share. And I think the biggest thing we take away, the biggest thing I'm taking away, I never know what I'm going to take away from something when I talk to somebody. The biggest thing I take away from talking to you, and I mean this in the most positive way, I'm looking right at my book, Get Out of Your Way. I think that hits because you were, in essence, already some kind of a success in your area. Like, I remember doing the consult with you for one-on-one coaching, and you were doing business. You were kind of like, going crazy and whatever, but you were doing business. But we allow so much of our own beliefs and what we would think if someone came up and said something to us, and, many times in a negative manner, to influence what we do as a business without taking into account how much our motive matters. I was at an event last week and I had somebody ask me the question, if they do this and that, what if they come off as a sleazeball? And I asked them a very simple question. I said, are you a sleazeball? And they said, no, I'm not. Then I said, then stop worrying. Like, I don't worry whether it's me in my videos or whether it's me talking to somebody or whether it's, whatever. I'm never worried about coming off like something, because ultimately I am who I am, and people are going to hear what they want to hear. But I am not going to filter every single thing that comes out of my mouth, the actions I do, whatever it happens to be, according to some role I'm trying to play, when in the end, people are going to filter how they want to filter anyway.
Yeah.
It's just so much easier and less work to just kind of let go of all that crap. You know what I'm saying? And stop. I told my son 2 days ago, he was talking about something. There was a chapter in my last book called "Nobody Can Drive You Crazy Unless You Give Them the Keys." He loved that. That was like, oh my God, like this big epiphany for his 9-year-old brain. But it's the God's honest truth, though. There's the real world, what's going on, and then there's a world that's happening inside of our head as far as what we think everybody's thinking and how this is going, whatever. When you let go of that and you just kind of move forward, great things happen. And what I love is that you were able to kind of see some results doing things differently than you would have done them without somebody telling you, nope, you're doing it this way.
Yeah, because especially the signs. I'm like, I'm not putting signs up. That is so cheesy. Why would I put a sold sign next to a pumpkin? He was like, just do it. And now I've been uploading my pictures today on Facebook. Yeah. Almost all of them, the photographer took the picture with the sign kind of in the background. So it's not like it's blatantly obvious. But now when I tag it, it's obvious that there's my sold sign. So I
love that. And that's all branding. Like that's all, look, you want to be a good person. You want to like all this stuff. But when people think about doing what it is you do for a living, that's it. Like this is how you take care of yourself, your family, you got to let go of all that other stuff. So I think that's fantastic. I'm really looking forward to, one of the things I love about talking to you, by the way, is that you are newer in our one-on-one program. And you're somebody, I think when I spoke to you, I said, like, I know where you're going. You have very high potential. Like you have, and it's going to be a process to get there, though, to organize and get the database in order and all those things. I'm personally looking forward to, and I think the people listening right now are really going to be looking forward to seeing you 2 years from now, 4 years from now, like where that goes, because the potential is there with the organization and the changing of mindsets and all that stuff. You've got the potential to be a very, very, very high producer, and you're doing this, by the way, with 2 little kids. I want everybody to understand that. For those of you that are watching this and have excuses, was that like a legit, like I finally got them to bed at 5 a.m. only to wake up at 5:30. I usually have to bring my kids to work. I usually have to, I don't know about you guys, but if I was watching that, like that would smack me in the rear end. Like, okay, I'm not having to do that. How come I'm not selling? How come I'm not, And that's legit, right? Like, you there, Mary?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I said, that's like legit, right? Like,
hello.
Crazy. Like, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, it's difficult. My first child was perfect. My second child never sleeps, cries all the time unless I'm holding her. So it's just easier to take her with me most of the time, and then she's happy because I think Ryan and I have had now one call without Sadie Grace, and most of the time, and it's funny because I guess I don't realize because I typically just wear her and she's asleep on my chest. And then I sent a BombBomb video to a new client that was like, hey, thanks for your email. I'd love to work with you. And they responded back with like, do I see something hiding? And then I was like, oh man, I forgot to take her off before I sent the BombBomb.
There's a line I've never said. I've never said, sorry, I forgot to take my baby off. Like I've never done that. But that's just a perfect example, though. Like you could be focused on that and say, oh crap, I can't do this, whatever. And I'm sure it's extremely difficult if we really got into it. But for you, this working for you is not an option. Like it is, like this is it. And there's going to come a day when they get older and such, and you're setting yourself up for that because that's going to be even easier for you when you don't have to, do all the things you do now. So,
yeah. And I tell Ryan because I'm very goal-oriented and number-oriented. And I'm like, I don't know, I haven't seen any numbers. I haven't seen any closings that are, I've only seen one that's a direct, because I'm in the Jared James thing.
Yeah.
And he just laughs at me. He's like, it's not immediate. So I've got to
process
because it should be like, I'm spending so much a month. It should be, twofold immediately. And it's not going to be, but.
That's awesome. All right. So here's what we're going to do. So I was originally going to speak about today, but then I remember that I had you coming on as the points winner. Congratulations once again. So next week, I'm going to cover, at the beginning of this month, I actually talked about the difference between a pivot and a close, and I went into the signals that it's time to go from a pivot to a close. And what I'm going to do next week is I'm actually going to go, it's just me on the broadcast next week, I'm going to go much, much deeper into, from a conversion standpoint, that pivot. Because I've had a lot of questions from a lot of the students here, and they want much more in depth of how that works rather than just what a pivot is, what a close is, and when to do it. So I'm going to do that on the next one, and it's something that I think a lot of you are really going to get a lot out of. I'm really going to go in depth on that. In the meantime, guys, please take a moment, say thank you to Mary. We're going to post her information in the group. I will be with you again, guys, next Monday. As I said, I'm in the middle of convention season right now, but for the most part, Mondays I'm not on the road. I'm usually here and then getting ready to take off for the week. Guys, put your questions in. Say thank you. You can post your questions also in the group, the Jared James coaching group. I'm sure that Mary will be taking a look at those too. So I can see him. We'll tag her. But congrats again. Thank you so much. You can hang on here a second. I'm just going to hit stop for everyone else. Guys, we will see you next week.